Support us with a subscription. The stories will come more often. Enjoy watching. At a glamorous charity gala in downtown Chicago, Michael spots his wife, Sophia, laughing with a stranger who reeks of trouble. Minutes later, she disappears onto the balcony with him. What follows is a weekend betrayal that tears a family apart and launches a quiet, calculated revenge plan that will ruin careers, destroy reputations, and shake high society to its core. This isn't just about infidelity, it's about justice. If anyone had asked Michael Barron 6 months ago how his life was going, he'd have said, solid. Not thrilling, not tragic, just solid. He was the executive editor of the Chicago American Globe, a respected paper with a long legacy. His wife, Sophia, held a senior VP position at one of the city's top publishing firms. Their two kids, Michael Jr. and Ashley, were both in college on opposite coasts, thriving. To the outside world, they were the definition of success. Dual-income power couple. Beautiful home in Oak Park, weekend brunches, family group chats that still buzzed with memes and birthday reminders. Underneath, though, things were off. It was subtle at first. Sophia worked later. She became more distracted. Conversations felt like scripts. Michael blamed stress, or maybe the drift that comes after 25 years together. They still slept in the same bed, still made weekend plans, still said love you before hanging up. But something was missing. That Friday night, they were supposed to relax. A black-tie gala in the city, fundraising for pediatric cancer research, an annual event they attended together. Michael looked forward to it more for the routine than the glamour. Sophia, however, was unusually excited. "It's been a week," she said. "Let's have fun tonight." They arrived separately due to traffic. Michael parked the Lincoln and met her inside. The ballroom was packed, glittering, loud. He scanned for Sophia and found her by the faux fireplace, laughing with a man he didn't recognize. The guy was too close, hand brushing her arm, leaning in as he spoke. Michael's first instinct was to intervene. That's when a hand gently stopped him. "Don't, not yet." The voice belonged to a woman standing beside him, brunette, composed. "You don't know me," she said, "but I know that guy, Darren Watson, and I know what's about to happen." Michael narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" "He's a predator," she said simply, "and your wife is his next target." Michael's pulse quickened. The woman, her name was Lana, nodded toward the balcony doors. "His play is simple. Charm, isolate, then seduce. He doesn't force anything. He makes them think it's their choice." Michael watched as Sophia laughed again, then followed Darren through the crowd. Two men who looked like they belonged more in a casino than a gala casually positioned themselves by the balcony doors once the couple stepped outside. "They're part of it," Lana said. "They run interference. If you rush out there, they'll make a scene. They'll spin it. You'll look like the jealous husband." Michael clenched his fists. "I know this because it happened to me," she added. 7 years ago. Same man, same tactic. I went out there with him. Thought it was innocent. It wasn't. I made a mistake that cost me my family. My husband never recovered." Michael stood still, absorbing her words like blows to the chest. Lana looked him in the eyes. "If she goes through with it, it'll happen fast. 15 minutes, maybe less. Then she'll come back inside like nothing happened. Or worse, she'll leave with him." And that's exactly what happened. Sophia didn't return inside. When Michael finally left, hours later, she still hadn't come home. Saturday passed in silence, no texts, no calls. Sunday, 4:45 p.m., a message came. "On my way home, let's talk." When she arrived, Michael was waiting. Her keys didn't work. "What's going on?" she asked, puzzled. "Your keys don't work," he said flatly, "because you don't live here anymore." She laughed nervously. "Michael, stop." He didn't. "No call, no explanation. You disappeared for 2 days. I warned you not to come back if you left with him." Her expression shifted from confusion to fear. "You have more to lose than I do," he continued. "So let's make this easy." He handed her an envelope. Inside was $22,000 in cash, the sale of the BMW he'd bought her for their anniversary. "Car's in my name. I sold it. Thought I'd be fair." Her voice broke. "How could you? I could ask the same. Where's the Lady Di ring you said you'd never take off?" She went silent. "Let me guess. He wanted a souvenir." Tears welled in her eyes, but he didn't flinch. "Get out," he said quietly. "We're done." When she protested, he handed her the restraining order. Moments later, the police arrived to escort her from the property. Michael closed the door behind them and leaned against the wall. The house felt cold, empty, but he wasn't broken. Not yet. This was only the beginning. By Monday morning, Michael had already crossed the threshold from heartbroken husband to strategic planner. He wasn't looking for revenge in the traditional sense. He wasn't going to shout in public, break things, or play the victim. Instead, he moved quietly, calm, calculated, and one step ahead. First, he called Steve Dawson, his best friend and attorney. They'd served together in the Air Force before going their separate ways. Steve to law school, Michael into journalism. "I'm filing for divorce," Michael said, "and I'm not waiting for her to come to her senses." Steve was at his house by 10 a.m. with two colleagues and a laptop. While they drafted divorce paperwork, a locksmith changed every lock in the house and installed new security systems. Michael didn't want Sophia back, not even for a conversation. He also began the financial sweep. Bank accounts, credit cards, insurance policies, the mortgage, everything was restructured. Sophia's access was revoked. Her phone line, part of their shared family plan, was cut. She didn't even know yet. Around noon, the buyer for the BMW came to tow it away. Michael had priced it for quick sale. He didn't care about the value. He cared about the message. Actions have consequences. By Tuesday, the investigation into Darren Watson was underway. Michael called Joe Spain, one of the Chicago American Globe's best investigative reporters. "I need everything you can get on a guy named Darren Watson." Discreetly. Joe didn't ask why. Later that evening, Michael met Lana for drinks. They chose a quiet bar far from the city, a place where no one would recognize them. Over whiskey sours and dim lighting, she told him the full story. How Darren had wrecked her marriage, how her children had cut her off, how her life had collapsed after that one weekend on a balcony. She wasn't making excuses, just giving him context. "You're handling this better than I did," she said. Michael nodded, though he wasn't sure if it was strength or shock holding him together. Before leaving, she handed him a slip of paper. Darren's full name, 2 phone numbers, a LinkedIn profile. "In case you want to escalate," she said. He did. That week, Michael focused on 3 priorities: legal closure, exposure, and psychological clarity. Legal closure meant finalizing the divorce and filing a restraining order, which Steve expedited. Exposure meant gathering evidence and witnesses to hold Darren accountable, especially if he'd targeted other married women in similar ways. And clarity meant taking care of himself, eating, sleeping, exercising, not letting the rage consume him. By Friday, Sophia still hadn't returned to the house or made any meaningful contact. She was staying at a luxury hotel, using personal cards she hadn't realized were now flagged. Michael suspected she didn't fully grasp what was happening, how thoroughly and completely she'd been cut off. That changed when she walked into her office Monday morning. Her assistant looked nervous. Her coworkers stared. And within minutes, her boss, Gwendolyn Harrelson, called her in. "Sophia," Gwendolyn said, "I don't need the details, but whatever happened this weekend, it's out. Everyone knows." Sophia tried to downplay it, but Gwendolyn wasn't having it. "Do you know who that man is? Do you know how many marriages he's destroyed?" That afternoon, Sophia was served divorce papers in person by a tall woman with a briefcase who announced herself as an attorney. It wasn't a legal requirement. It was a message. "You've been served," the woman said, "on behalf of a man who trusted you." Back at home, Michael wasn't celebrating. He was working through the emotional wreckage. His kids still didn't know. He hadn't told them. Not yet. He wanted to wait until he had the facts. On Saturday, he called both Michael Jr. and Ashley, told them he needed them home for a family meeting. No details, just urgency. They agreed. When they arrived, Sophia did too, bringing her own lawyer, a woman named Kathleen O'Hara. It was a mistake. "I said this was a family meeting," Michael told her, "not a deposition." Sophia insisted she needed protection. Michael let her stay, but made it clear. She could talk or she could leave. His kids were blindsided. Sophia barely looked at them. When pressed, she gave vague answers, deflecting questions with legal posturing. Finally, Michael stood. "I'll tell them," he said. He recounted everything. What happened at the gala, how she left with another man, the silence, the return, the complete lack of remorse. He didn't embellish. He didn't dramatize. He just laid out the facts. Ashley began to cry. Michael Jr. sat frozen. Sophia's lawyer tried to interrupt. "Sit down," Michael snapped. "You don't speak for this family." Sophia broke then. She sobbed. She apologized. She said she wanted forgiveness. But Michael had heard it all before, from people he'd interviewed, from people who only cried once consequences arrived. "It's not about one night," he told her. "It's about every choice you made before, during, and after. You wanted freedom. You got it." The meeting ended in silence. Sophia left with her lawyer. Michael sat alone in the living room, sipping coffee, staring at the empty chair where she used to sit. The home was quieter than ever, but it wasn't empty. It was his again. Michael didn't want to play the victim. He was tired of being pitied, of friends whispering behind his back, of sympathetic looks at work. What he wanted, what he needed, was justice. Not the kind handed out in courtrooms, but the kind that exposed predators and liars in the plain light of day. So he focused on Darren Watson. Joe Spain, the investigative reporter from Michael's paper, delivered results quickly. Darren was a known entity in Chicago's high society circles, smooth, connected, rich, and relentless. He'd never been charged with anything, but rumors followed him like shadows. Several women, always married, always high status, had discreet encounters with him, only to find their lives unraveling afterward. Joe found one of those women, then another, then four more. Each had a story. Each felt ashamed. Each had believed they were the only one. Michael set up confidential interviews. He didn't push, he let them speak. Some cried, some trembled. One refused to go on the record, but gave him names of others. The pattern was clear. Darren wasn't just a flirt or a cheat. He was a methodical manipulator. He targeted vulnerability like a con artist. Women in unhappy marriages, overworked professionals, anyone needing validation. He lured them in with attention and made them feel chosen. Then he discarded them. The question was, how to stop him? Michael had no interest in physical confrontation. He had a newsroom, he had evidence, and he had allies. But before he made a move, he wanted to make sure Darren didn't think he was untouchable anymore. The perfect opportunity came with another charity gala. Michael invited Lana. She was hesitant at first, but agreed when she heard Darren was expected to attend. "I'd like to see his face when the mirror finally cracks," she said. They arrived separately, met at the venue, and observed. Darren was there, predictable as ever. This time he was zeroed in on a younger woman, early 30s, laughing politely while he hovered too close. Her husband was at the bar, unaware. Darren brushed her shoulder, whispered in her ear. Lana noticed the setup instantly. Same playbook. Michael didn't confront him yet. He waited until Darren led the woman toward the private corridor near the coat room. Same path, same routine. Michael intercepted her. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "You don't know me, but I need to show you something." He held out a photo. It was Sophia, his wife, bruised, emotionally broken, in the days after everything fell apart. "This is my wife. That man you're with destroyed our marriage. It started just like tonight. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to stop him from doing it again." The woman looked stunned. The color drained from her face. She stared at the photo, then at Michael, then turned back toward Darren. "You jerk," she snapped, then slapped him. Hard. The room went quiet. Glass shattered. Eyes turned. Darren's goons started moving in, but Lana stepped forward, blocking one of them. Michael stood his ground. Darren tried to talk his way out. "She's making assumptions. You don't know what you're talking about." Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a small stack of documents. Sworn affidavits, 6 women, and this, he held up a business card, belongs to the assistant district attorney who's opening an inquiry. You might want to get a lawyer. Darren's smirk vanished. Then the cameras went off. Photographers Michael had quietly invited began snapping photos. Some captured the confrontation. Others caught the expressions of shocked guests. One image, the moment Darren was slapped, went viral within the hour. Michael leaned in. "You're finished." Later that night, Michael's paper published a feature story, "The Predator in the Ballroom, Darren Watson's Trail of Broken Lives." It was backed by interviews, legal documents, anonymous testimonials, and expert analysis. The backlash was swift. Within 24 hours, Darren was removed from every board he sat on. The charity rejected his donations. His firm suspended him. By the end of the week, his professional license was under review. He became a pariah. And Sophia? She tried to call, left voicemails, sent texts. Michael didn't respond. Instead, he forwarded her messages to his lawyer. The divorce process accelerated. Sophia's job was on shaky ground, her social circle shrinking fast. Her attorney quit when more evidence came out about her relationship with Darren and her failed attempts to suppress the story. At work, Michael remained calm, productive. He didn't boast, he didn't gloat, he didn't need to. Truth was doing the work for him. Lana visited him a few days later. They sat in the sunroom, drinking coffee. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." Michael shook his head. "I exposed one man, but it doesn't fix everything." "No," she agreed, "but it helps." There was silence between them. Then Lana added, "You should be proud of how you handled it." Michael wasn't sure if he felt pride. What he felt was control, for the first time in months. The pain hadn't disappeared. The betrayal still echoed. But now it had a shape, a name, a headline. And the man responsible for it was finally facing consequences. The fallout wasn't clean. It never is. Michael's victory over Darren Watson had made headlines and enemies. Within days of the expose, Michael received veiled threats, anonymous emails, even a late-night vandalism incident where his driveway was sprayed with red paint. Police were called, statements filed, security cameras upgraded. Nothing too serious, but a message was being sent. Darren was unraveling, but he wasn't going quietly. Michael's legal team stayed sharp. Steve Dawson had seen it all in family court. But this case was different. High profile, emotional, public. And now it was personal. Darren tried to countersue for defamation, but his attorney dropped him after learning about the affidavits and pending complaints with the state. The assistant district attorney, whose wife had been approached by Darren at a networking event years earlier, opened a quiet investigation into potential civil misconduct. Not enough for prison, maybe, but enough to ruin a reputation. Then came the retaliation. Darren's car, his prize Ferrari, was vandalized. Police suspected it was someone connected to one of the many families he'd targeted, but nothing stuck. His insurance dropped him. His license was suspended due to an unrelated fine, and he was forced to switch to a rental car. Word spread that someone had anonymously filed dozens of complaints against his brokerage firm, triggering audits and internal reviews. Michael wasn't behind those actions, but he wasn't losing sleep over them either. Meanwhile, Sophia was spiraling. She'd hired a new attorney, one willing to take her case for the media attention. But her public image was toxic. Word of the divorce had reached her workplace. Her colleagues kept their distance. Her office door, once always open, was now shut more often than not. Then came the final blow. She was placed on unpaid leave, pending internal review. No one said it outright, but everyone knew why. Her association with Darren, now a scandalous figure, made her a liability. Michael didn't gloat. He didn't contact her. He let the system work. His focus shifted to his children. The meeting had left them shaken. Ashley was emotional. Michael Jr. was reserved but troubled. They hadn't expected their family to implode so publicly or so thoroughly. When Sophia reached out to them privately, reactions varied. Ashley met with her. Michael Jr. declined. Tara, Michael Jr.'s fiancée, was furious. She'd supported Michael from day one and didn't hide her resentment. "She didn't just cheat," Tara told Ashley bluntly. "She blew up everything, and she still hasn't really owned it." Ashley tried to defend her mother. She made a mistake, but the words felt hollow, even to her. Then came the invitation. Tara and Michael Jr. were getting married. The date was set. The venue was booked. Michael was invited, so was Sophia. Michael considered declining, but Tara called him personally. "Please come," she said. "We'll handle her. You've earned your place." He agreed, with one condition. He wouldn't be near Sophia. The wedding weekend arrived. Michael traveled to New Jersey, stayed in a hotel away from the main venue, and attended the ceremony without issue. Sophia arrived late, tried to speak with him during the reception, and was intercepted by Tara's mother. "Not today," she said. "Let the man enjoy his son's wedding." Sophia left the reception early. Michael stayed until the end, gave a heartfelt toast, and even danced with Tara's grandmother, who whispered, "You raised a good man." Months passed. Sophia tried again to contact him, once after the wedding, once after the divorce was finalized. Michael ignored both attempts. The divorce settlement was firm. She got a condo, some savings, and limited spousal support. He kept the house, the cars, and full ownership of his assets. The judge, an old friend of Steve's, had ruled decisively. "Actions have consequences," he'd said in court. Still, Michael wasn't at peace. Not yet. He'd lost trust in his children, or rather, in how little they understood the damage done. They weren't cruel, just confused, raised in a world where everything had a reset button. But some things, like betrayal, leave scars that don't fade just because time passes. He focused on healing. Lana remained part of his life. They weren't officially a couple, not yet, but they spent more time together. Shared dinners, walks in the park, long talks. She understood things others didn't. She didn't offer platitudes. She offered presence. One night, as they sat in her backyard watching the sky, she asked, "Do you feel better now?" Michael thought about it. "No," he said, "but I feel clear." That clarity deepened when he got the call from Tara. "Dad, little Michael turns 3 next weekend. We're throwing a party. Will you come?" He hesitated. "I promise," she added. "Mom's not invited. She doesn't even know about it." Michael smiled. "I'll be there." The party was simple. Backyard, family, a cake shaped like a truck. Michael brought his grandson a metal Tonka dump truck, just like the one he'd given his son decades ago. Little Michael loved it. As the party wound down, Michael sat in a lawn chair, sipping a beer, watching the boy play. That's when he saw Sophia. She wasn't invited. She'd come anyway. Someone must have told her. She walked up quietly, holding a glass of wine. "Hello, Michael." He said nothing. She sat next to him, crossed her legs, and gave him a smile. "You look good." Still, silence. "I miss you," she said. "I want to try again. The past few years have been lonely." Michael stood. "You want a second chance," he said. "But not once have you ever said, 'I'm sorry.' Not once did you take real responsibility. You vanished for 2 days, came back, and expected normalcy. And now you want to rewind the tape." She opened her mouth to speak, but he stopped her. "Not just no," he said. "Hell no." And he walked away. A few minutes later, a scream rang out. Then sirens. Then chaos. Michael turned to his son. "Go. Your mother might be hurt." The rest unraveled fast. Sophia had taken her own life at her grandson's birthday party. Michael answered the police's questions. He stayed calm. He didn't cry. He didn't collapse. Lana called later. He told her he didn't need help. "I'm fine," he said. "It's just done." The funeral was large. Michael didn't attend. Instead, he stood at a distance in the rain, watching as the casket was lowered. Once the crowd left, he approached the grave. He didn't speak long. "I used to love you. I really did. But we're finished now." Then he turned and left, not looking back. The days after Sophia's funeral passed in silence. Michael didn't speak much at work. People gave him space, unsure whether to offer condolences or distance. He accepted both. What was there to say? His ex-wife had taken her own life at their grandson's birthday party. The headlines had been subdued. His contacts in the media kept things quiet. But words still got around. His children were in shock. Michael Jr. blamed himself for inviting her. Ashley became more withdrawn. Tara, now Michael's daughter-in-law, was the only one who stayed close. She didn't excuse what had happened, but she acknowledged it. "She made her choices," she told him. "You did everything you could." Michael didn't feel vindicated. He felt tired, not broken, just finished. Then one day a package arrived at his desk. Inside was a manila envelope with photos, forensic shots from the scene, a courtesy from his old photographer friend. The images were clear, brutal, final. He didn't look at them long. He didn't need to. That chapter was over. What remained now was the final piece of unfinished business. Darren Watson. Though the legal system hadn't charged him with a crime, the court of public opinion had. His brokerage firm terminated him. No charity would accept his money. He was removed from professional boards. Even the NAACP, which once honored him, issued a public statement cutting ties. No one defended him anymore. He tried to pivot, to rebrand, move cities, change industries. But the name stuck. Too many stories, too many women, too much truth. Michael didn't track him obsessively, but he stayed informed. He didn't have to do much. Darren's life was collapsing on its own. At one point, someone tampered with his license plates, causing him to get pulled over and arrested. Then his luxury condo was vandalized. Rumors swirled about back alley beatings, threats, and debts. Michael didn't sanction any of it, but he didn't interfere either. One morning, he got a call from Lana. "Darren's in the hospital," she said. "Someone found him behind a bar near the old stockyards." "It's bad." Michael asked, "Do you think it was random?" "No," she said, "but it was inevitable." Later that week, he read the report. Darren had been attacked, his injuries humiliating. The details weren't printed, but they made the rounds in private circles. The consensus was clear. Someone, somewhere, had had enough. Michael didn't gloat. He simply archived the article and moved on. The next few months were quiet. Michael kept working, spent weekends with his grandson, and occasionally saw Lana. Their bond deepened slowly and without pressure. She never pushed for labels. She understood healing takes time. Eventually, Tara invited Michael to another event, this time her father's retirement party. Michael was hesitant, but she insisted. "You're part of the family," she said. "You don't have to give a speech. Just show up." He did. People were warm, respectful. A few offered thanks, not for what he'd been through, but for how he'd handled it. Dignified, calm, just. That night after the party, Michael sat outside with Tara's father, sharing a drink. "I heard everything," the man said. "And I'll say this, you did what most men couldn't. You didn't let it break you." Michael nodded. "I almost did." "But you didn't." The man raised his glass. "To that." Months later, at the next annual Children's Charity Gala, the same event where everything began, Michael returned. He brought Lana. They arrived without fanfare, no big entrance. Just two people walking in together, confident and composed. Michael noticed the difference immediately. People whispered, but not about him. About Darren Watson, how he'd fallen, how the truth came out, how Michael had sparked it. The organization's board had changed. New leadership, stricter vetting. The event raised half as much money as the year before, but it was clean. Michael stood in the back of the room, watching the auction, when he noticed a familiar pattern. A slick-looking man approaching a woman alone, hand brushing her shoulder, leaning in with a smile. He didn't hesitate. He approached the woman calmly. "Excuse me," he said, handing her a card. "You don't know me, but that man behind you, he's playing the same game others have played here before. If you want to avoid the same ending, I suggest walking away now." She looked confused, then wary, then nodded. The man turned to challenge Michael. "You again?" he muttered. "No," Michael said. "Someone better." And he walked away. As he rejoined Lana, she smiled. "You're still watching the door." "I don't want anyone else getting blindsided." The event wrapped quietly. Michael and Lana danced once, talked little, enjoyed the calm. On the ride home, she took his hand. "You ever think about starting over?" she asked. "I already did." She squeezed his fingers. They didn't define it, didn't need to. Michael knew he'd been through the worst. He hadn't just survived. He'd stayed standing, with truth, with discipline, with dignity. Sophia was gone. Darren was ruined. The kids were healing. The past was where it belonged, behind him. Now, finally, Michael could face forward.